It's Powerback time on the Gutsy Podcast, your 20-minute boost to reclaim and refocus your energy. Get ready to have bursts of clarity, a boost of confidence, and the practical steps you need to make gutsy moves forward. You've got big things to do, so let's get your power back. Has anyone ever told you that you're allowed to change your mind? And let me take it up a notch. You're allowed to change your mind regardless of how much time, money, or effort you've put into something. There's this societal expectation that rolls around saying that, hey, you started something, you've got to finish it. But what that doesn't take into account are your life changes, your soul shifts, gaining new information, and something as simple and complex as your gut saying no. So if you have started something and you've put in a lot or even a little bit of effort into it, and you're finding like, hey, this is not working anymore, but I feel bad for changing my mind, then this episode is going to help you build the courage and make the gutsy move to get back into alignment with what you actually want. Before we dig into that, I got to give you a little pro tip here. And something that helps when you are making a life change is having people in your corner. I don't know about you, but when I'm making a change and I'm all by myself, my brain loves to come up with all kinds of creative scenarios. And sometimes they're in my favor, and a lot of times they're not. Having a community of people to bounce ideas off of, say, hey, I'm struggling with this, and to celebrate your victories, no matter how small or big they are, has a profound impact on your success and your happiness. The women inside the Gutsy Collective are making gutsy moves. They are making these changes that they have always been thinking about. But this time they're doing it alongside other women that get them. In fact, I want you to hear from one of our founding members and what the impact of having a community has had on her life.
And it's real. You know, I share, I make a post, everybody engages. The responses are beautiful and it's really validating. And it's not just like generic, pat on the back bullshit. It's like they read, they care. You got an actual response from another person that is genuine. They didn't have to take that time. So it's an incredible experience. It's something that it's not what I expected. It's so much more.
Making your next gutsy move is so much easier when you are surrounded by people that believe in you. Start your 14-day free trial by going to lauraora.com and clicking on the Gutsy Collective. All right, love bug, let's dig into this, shall we? First, I just want to reiterate that you are allowed to change your mind. I just don't think that is a statement that is said very much, if at all, whether in the home or in the workplace, definitely not out in the world. There's this underspoken expectation that, hey, you started something, you have to finish it. And I think that comes from generations and generations of people that have just believed and worked a certain way. But again, that doesn't take into consideration changes and just simply honoring, hey, this isn't working for me anymore. There's something about this that I don't like. Something different is calling me. Like, we are fluid human beings. We are forever moving and growing. And making yourself stick with something just for like good merit, I don't buy it. Now, let's also not skew this. I'm not saying to be irresponsible. I'm not saying to sign up for a bunch of things and fucking disappear. I'm not saying to ghost people. I'm not saying bite off more that you can chew and then leave people hanging. No, that you can already tell. That's a whole different conversation. What I'm talking about are some commitments that you've made, some decisions you've made, some things that you have decided to go for or after, and you've gotten into it, right? You've started something and you've put in some type of effort. That effort could be a thought. That effort could be months or years worth of work. Now, I'm also going to say that the further you're into something, the longer you've been doing it, I know, it can be very difficult to say, just kidding, this actually isn't for me anymore. But honestly, mentally committing to something and changing your mind can have the same feelings and effects. What's usually happening in these situations are you've just found something out, right? You've lost interest. You've discovered that, hey, I don't like this anymore. I thought this was for me. Turns out I was wrong. Maybe you've gotten what you needed from the experience. I think that a lot of times we go through these types of experiences to meet somebody, to have some sort of resource, to learn a lesson, to learn some tools. And maybe the work that you've put in thus far has given you that information and tools that you needed. Maybe you get so far into something and you're enlightened by something else. You get that information and then you realize, oh, hey, starting this is what actually led me to that. Making that change is a gutsy move. Admitting that this is no longer for you is a gutsy move. Changing your mind, putting in a notice, finishing something, walking away, these are all gutsy moves. That breaks down to change, which breaks down even further into vulnerability. And you know, if you have listened to me for 30 seconds or for 3 years, people hate to be vulnerable. They hate to admit that they're wrong. And maybe even higher than any of those things, people hate to let other people down. So what do? You avoid the gutsy move and you deal with it. You settle, you dig your heels into the ground, you stand on pride, and you just keep doing the same thing. But deep down inside, you know this isn't right for you. You start to feel resentful, your anxiety creeps up, depression comes knocking on the door. Comparison loves to peep its head in when you're not doing what you want to do and you see someone else doing what you want to do. All that inner banter, that mind junk that I always talk about, it gets loud and it gets freaky. And not freaky in the way that we like it, okay? Freaky in the way that it messes with you, where you feel this tug of war between like, hey, I said I would do this, but hey, there's something else calling me. I want to let go, but I don't want to look like I'm wishy-washy. I've put a lot into this and I feel wasteful, like I wasted time, I wasted money, I wasted energy. I should be further along than this right now. I'm terrified that I'm going to let people down. You know, admitting to not wanting to do this anymore says like, hey, maybe someone else has to take on some more responsibility. Maybe the people that were coming along on this ride with me have to get off the ride now. I don't want to upset the cart. And damn it, I really don't want to start over. I hate being the newbie. I hate starting from zero. I've already got this time invested in it, so I might as well just keep going, right? Wrong. In fact, I'm going to pause right here and tell you that if you know someone in your life that has been talking to you about this, has been feeling this way, pause this and forward this episode to them right now. Because changing your mind is one of the greatest gifts that you will ever give yourself. Changing your mind says, hey, my soul is calling me towards something new. I've gotten what I need here. I've found information. I know this isn't right for me, and my life is giving me these breadcrumbs. I might not have it all figured out. I might not have all the details. And I sure as fuck don't know what I'm doing right now. But what I know is that what I'm doing right now isn't working anymore. And it's in this moment when we've got to wake up. You've got to get super crystal fucking clear about what it is that you do want. And now it's time to take the action towards it. This is the gutsy move moment. What are you going to do? Keep doing this thing just to prove a point? To who? For what reason? Friend, this is the time to let go of the expectation. Because what's tugging at you, that's where you're supposed to be. This is the next chapter of your life. This is where the success starts to come in. The health falls into place. The happiness that you've been craving finally starts to roll in. That freedom that you've been wanting and craving, you finally start to experience it. But when you make yourself keep doing shit that doesn't work for you, you are blocking yourself from all of those things. It's almost like locking yourself in a room, but the door has no lock on it. All you have to do is turn the handle and walk through it. And listen, I get it. I get it. We can open the door, we can peek outside, we can start to straddle back and forth between the old space and the new space, but fully stepping out, that's where that vulnerability comes in. That's where the questioning and the starting over and the fear of letting people down, that's where all that mind junk starts to come into play. So in this moment, I want you to lock in, why does this matter? How are you feeling about the current thing? And how do you feel about the potential of the new thing? I'll tell you a quick story. I experienced this in 2023 when I sold my commercial building. If you listen way back into episodes, you'll hear me talk about this crazy story about how I was able to buy this commercial building after COVID, after I'd almost lost everything. We as in my husband and I, AJ and I, We were going to build this out and to be this beautiful entrepreneurial hub, a co-working space, a meeting space, an event space. I used to brand environments, buildings, offices, places, and branding a building, oh, so high on my bucket list. Everything came into alignment. It was time for me to leave my old space. This building was there. It wasn't for sale. I asked to buy it. The bank said, we'll approve you. We just need 50 grand. I'm like, great. I don't have 50 grand, but I'll find it. In the next, I think it was like 6 or 8 weeks, I generated an extra $50,000 in the agency. We bought the building and we moved in, and it was bare scraps. So we moved into the space with the full expectation that we were going to see it through. We worked with an architect to get floor plans. I designed the space from top to bottom. We worked with this amazing rendering guy so that I could see the vision of what we had created. And the renderings, I still have them. I don't look at them anymore, but I still have them. My God, sometimes I dream about them because they are stunning. The community knew about it. The Chamber of Commerce was on board. We had our local government involved. I was going to town meetings about it. I mean, listen, I was knee deep in this. And then something started to shift. I realized that this vision started to feel heavy, dense. I started to feel some resistance, and I was like, okay, there's resistance present. So what does this mean? Does this mean that I'm afraid to move forward because it's new? Or is this resistance like putting my hand on a hot stove saying, don't touch that? The resistance started to come from the realization of how much money it was going to cost to build this gorgeous space out. By the time it was all said and done, we were looking at almost $1 million renovation. The idea of managing a team to manage the building made me realize I don't want to do that again. I didn't like that we were always kind of being pulled back into the building, and we had to check in on things in the evenings and the weekends when events were happening in there because we were able to utilize the raw space while we were there. Meanwhile, by the way, in the background, I had decided to sell the agency at the same point in time. And I went back to the good old reliable question that I asked myself so many years ago, and that is, what does Laura want to do? Laura wants to speak. Laura wants to coach. Laura wants to travel. And this building is feeling more and more like an anchor every single freaking day. But of course, all these fears and limitations started popping up. Everyone knows about this. The community knows about it. People are excited about it. There's a waiting list for people wanting to rent the space. People want to host events here. I've shared all the renderings. We've got all the branding out. It was fucking fully, other than breaking ground with a contractor, everything was done. And about, it was probably 6 or 8 weeks after I decided to sell the agency, I just had this freaking weight on my chest, and I got this download, and it was like, Laura, you got to let the building go too. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. I put all this time, money, effort, and a lot of love into this space. And I'm going to walk away? I'm going to sell this? I'm going to shut it down? It was a tough conversation to have with my husband because he was super invested in it as well, right? He was part of the construction team. He was part of the AutoCAD drawings for the space. He was a huge part of the vision. We were doing it together, and man, we cried. We cried together because it felt like a loss. It was a grieving process. But when we came together, we realized hey, this isn't aligning with what we really want to do with our life. And I personally had to realize hey, I'm not letting people down. I'm letting myself down if I continue to do something that I know that I'm not supposed to do. My impact isn't going away. My impact is being redirected. Helping people doesn't have to be isolated in this one center space. In fact, helping people gets to be so much bigger and so wide and deep and beautiful when I choose to walk away with this and do what I'm called to do. So I called the real estate agent that helped us buy it, and she helped us put it on the market. 2 weeks later, we had an offer, and about 2.5 months later, we went to settlement and it was sold. I tell you this story because I want you to know, truly, that it is okay to change your mind. You are allowed to change your mind. You've got to trust yourself. You've got to be willing to be new at something so that you can be great at what you're supposed to be great in. And you've got to be curious instead of combative. When you step into this type of energy, you open things up so much more for yourself and your people around you. Because listen, when you're doing the thing that you want to do and you're supposed to be doing, and when I say supposed to be, I mean what you were put on this earth to do. Like there's this whole big search for your life's purpose. If you want to find your life's purpose, you've got to be willing to be curious, to have trial and error. I can't sit down with you and say, hey, here is your life's purpose. I mean, could we technically dig into things like astrology and human design to help kind of guide it? Absolutely. But only you are going to truly know what resonates with you. And the only way you're going to find that is if you're willing to dodge and pivot, to let go of things that don't serve you, to be willing to let other people down. Oh, I know that feels gross. But every time that you avoid letting somebody else down, you are letting yourself down. Right now, at time of recording, it is just shy of a year since the building has sold. And I will tell you, in the beginning, it was a little bumpy and I felt sad. I felt really sad letting something that was so important to me go. But it didn't take long for me to realize, oh my gosh, I just gave myself so much time and freedom. It was like my soul took the biggest deep breath that I've ever had in my entire life. And now I have the freedom and the flexibility. I don't have that huge number hanging over top of my head. We're not being pulled back and forth in between 2-3 different spaces. Our life is much more calm. We're doing the things that we want to do. We're spending more quality time together. My stress has been cut and cut and cut over the years. And I'm making the impact that I really wanted to make through doing the thing that I actually wanted to do in the first place. I just happened to take the long fucking way around. I'm certain that you've done that a time or two as well. My point is, I let go of something and my life is better because of it. And I don't know what everyone's thoughts and feelings about it were. I'm sure somebody was let down. I know that people were bummed because they wanted to rent the space and now it's not there. But you know what? They're okay. They found other options. They moved on with their lives. And whoever you're worried about in your life is going to be okay too. So my question to you is, what is a change that you have been avoiding? Don't overthink this. Don't get into the nitty-gritty. Just trust whatever came up. Because there might be several things in your life, let's be honest. But I can almost promise you that there is a dominant one. There is one that takes more of your time and energy than the others. There is one that keeps you up at night. There's one that you fantasize about. Something is calling for you to change. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this episode. What is it? Write it down. Say it out loud. If you are driving in your car, say it out loud right now. If you are walking on the treadmill at the gym, say it out loud right now. Let it be awkward. I don't care who hears it. I want you to start claiming this shit for yourself. And if it's the how that's tripping you up, I've got plenty of episodes that walk you through that. Or you know what? Another great example of why to join the Gutsy Collective, to learn the how, to get that support. But please, I beg of you, don't let the fear of the unknown or the fear of letting people down or this expectation of I've started something and now I have to finish it. Please don't let that be the reason that you stop pursuing your dreams. Every time you allow yourself to change your mind, you get that much closer to the thing that's truly meant for you. And remember, the support is here. I'm telling you, the Gutsy Collective is where it's at. If you are wanting to make a change, you are ready to do the thing, and you feel isolated and you're not really sure where to start, join the Gutsy Collective. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to lauraora.com. If there was something that resonated with you with this episode or any others that you've listened to, I would super duper big puffy heart love and appreciate if you could leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us to get in front of more women like you to make gutsy moves and to change their life. I am at that Laura Ora on all social platforms. Come connect with me. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.